Hello, everyone. We're at REMAX Capitol Properties live this morning. I'm Rebecca Hess,
And I'm Amber Johnson.
and we are excited to talk to you today. We have a couple different topics we wanted to cover, but I think maybe we'll start with kind of the current market and what we're seeing right now. We're halfway through January, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That goes by so fast.
I know.
So, what are you seeing in the market right now, midway through this first month?
Well, I definitely have heard from both buyers and sellers with kind of a new excitement in their voices, ready to maybe make some moves that last year they maybe weren't so sure about. So that's encouraging.
I think so too. That's how I felt. I feel like it's been busy on both sides with listings and with buyers coming in. So I feel that excitement too. I think we're starting to see some people jump back in who've kind of been holding off for a while. So that's good. I pulled up, and you probably already had the same information, but I pulled up interest rates as of this morning, and it looks like a 30-year sitting around 5.99.
I know. I was like,
Which is
wow,
great.
we
I know.
actually dipped right below that 6%. So
Which is awesome. And obviously those change up and down a little bit every day, but 5.99, that was nice to see that today. And then on a 15-year, it was at 5.25.
yeah,
So that's fantastic,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know.
great, right?
I was surprised to see that, and I think that should encourage our buyers to say, hey, it's time to start taking this seriously.
Yeah, and I would imagine over the next year, and we've talked about this too, I think we'll come down a little bit more, but I don't know, with the current administration, who knows? We kind of get things thrown at us all the time, which are kind of new and things, but I would imagine the rates will probably keep coming down a little bit throughout the year, but I don't know if we'll ever get back down to where we were in 2020, but that 5.99, that was great to see that today. So yeah, and then on our market, or in Laramie County, as of this morning, we had 288 homes on market, which if you look at, a year ago, what did we say yesterday in our meeting, that we were about 100 less right now. So our inventory is pretty low compared to even a year ago. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and I actually looked at what the average price point is right now for active listings, and it was actually 512,000. So
Was it really?
our inventory is lower. We felt like maybe the market was a little bit slower. But what's encouraging is we haven't seen a huge dip in our prices.
No.
So that tells us that our market is still strong.
Yeah.
It's still a great place to invest and to buy in Cheyenne because our average price point is actually continuing to go up.
It is. I actually pulled some numbers on that. So when we talk about appreciation and home values, how they appreciated, and this is numbers pulling from the end of 2025 from comparison to end of 2024, and one report showed up 9% in home value. On a conservative estimate, we'd be at 4.5%, 5% on that. But that, when you compare that to the nation, we're quite high still on appreciation. So yes, I think you're totally right. I think when we're looking at investment properties or people getting into houses, this is a great market to do that in. I agree. And one of our agents this morning popped in and reminded us that when we look at where people are still moving from or to, interestingly enough, our neighbor down the road in Denver is losing more people this last year than they did in how many years previous. And so I think we're still seeing a lot of growth coming in from other states, especially from Colorado into Cheyenne. So I'm not surprised that the home prices are still going up because we are seeing that movement still. Yeah. So interesting. That's interesting. And so the report I had showed that our median home price is at $381,500.
Oh, wow.
For 2025. So that's interesting that you pulled up and showed what we have listed currently. What did you say it was?
512, and of course that's new construction, rural. That's townhomes. That's single family. That's everything combined together. So that average is really spread amongst many different types of homes. The other thing that I found interesting is right now in Cheyenne there are 164 pending sales. So that means those are homes that have active contracts on them that we anticipate will be closing. And the average price on those is $458,000. So really, what's going under contract really is still in that price point, mid 400s. And so, we are a thriving market, even though things seem to be a little bit slow.
I agree. Well, and nationally, they do seem to be slow. I think nationally prices are down in a lot of places. I think things are slower, but Cheyenne And historically, it's been like that, right? That the market stays pretty steady here. So it is a good market. So a question then, something to think about is investing in first-time home buyers. If we're looking at homes going into, and what'd you say, 450 or 400 and something thousand? If that's our average price for these pendings, how do investors and first-time home buyers, what do you think, get into the market? What would be advice you would offer to them?
As far as them actually getting in and finding a home and moving forward. Well, I think definitely different for first-time home buyers and investors for obvious reasons. But I like to tell my first-time home buyers, even if that average price point of 458 or 512 isn't quite where you're comfortable, we need to focus on buying smart because as we've seen, you're going to have appreciation. So let's get you into a home that makes sense for today. You can afford it. You're comfortable. It meets, your bedrooms and bathrooms as much as possible. And then let's let you own that home for the next 3-4 years. You're going to have appreciation where you're going to be able to move up to that home that maybe is your ultimate dream home or, the next steps home. That's what I try to tell them.
I agree. And I wonder, too, if we've had that mindset of thinking you're getting into the first-time home and it's going to be equivalent to what your parents worked for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case. At this point, having home ownership just to get going is such a great investment. It's a solid investment, especially here. So, and you guys do quite a few investment properties. You have rentals. You guys flip homes. So you play that game and get into that and do it. So it's possible to do it, right? Here in this market.
It is. And, I know that there comes risk with any kind of investment. My husband and I choose real estate because obviously that's what we eat, breathe. We know everything
right,
real
that's
estate.
What we live.
But we even find ourselves, when there's an opportunity to get into a home for an investment purpose, it also might not check every box, but as long as it checks the majority of the smart boxes, we're going to invest in Cheyenne real estate every day of the week. And you do as well.
Yeah, I agree. It is a smart investment. So what do you think with the new administration and with President Trump coming out and saying they were going to limit home ownership to, right? And I may be speaking incorrectly how this works, but it's these big corporations that come in and buy multiple properties. How do you feel about that with him coming in and saying that they're not going to allow that anymore? What are your thoughts on that?
I try not to get political, to be honest with you. I think that, home ownership, whether it be from an investment standpoint or as your primary residence, is important to all of us as Americans.
I agree.
Are there right ways and wrong ways to do it? Probably. Do we want to make sure that there's still affordable housing to everybody? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with an investor coming in and buying everything and raising the prices and nobody can afford rent, nobody can afford to own. But I don't know that somebody should be told they can or cannot buy. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
an interesting
what
situation.
Do you think?
Well, I wondered how it would affect us. Like, will it really trickle down into our market and affect us a lot? I think we're going to see more of that affect places in like Denver, big metro areas. So I've kind of wondered, I agree. I think any kind of way we can, I guess, even the playing field for people trying to get into their homes for the first time or stuff, I think is a great thing. But I agree too that it's kind of a fine line to walk, right? When you start to push into that. But it'll be interesting to see in Cheyenne, in our market, Laramie County, how that does affect us if it goes into play. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. I try to stay also not political. That can get you in trouble. Even though I have an opinion, I always have an opinion that can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So another thing we talked about tackling today maybe was kind of what's in and what's out as far as design, right?
I've seen a switch, I think even last year, everybody was into the grays and the whites, and agreeable gray, I think, was on everybody's
every wall.
And as much as I still think the grays and the whites are beautiful and are definitely still desired and are in, I do think we've had a movement back to the browns and the neutrals and the warm colors.
I do too.
Yeah.
I see more of that, and we're working on some things in our home. You guys have remodeled a home recently, and so definitely that's where I'm heading, and I love it. I love how soft and inviting it is, and I loved the gray too and the whites, right? I love the clean and stuff. So I pulled up some information, and you probably have some also on kind of what people are looking for, and so here's what Our friend ChatGPT said when we asked what are the designs we're seeing in 2026, it says warm, earthy, rich color palettes, which is true. I mean, I follow a lot of people on TikTok and Instagram, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And I love some of these cabinet colors that we're seeing and some of the paint colors and the tile colors. And I just think it is, when we say rich and warm, yeah, I love that.
Well, when you say colors, that's just it.
Yeah.
People are putting color back into their home.
Yeah, which is fun because for how long we walked through houses that just felt like
museums.
Exactly, and everyone looked the same, right? Gray carpet, gray walls, white everything, and like I said, I'm not opposed to that because I love that minimal, clean look. But it is so nice to see color coming back into some of these designs. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, what else did you find on that? I know you were looking at some of the stuff on that too.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, we're doing remodels and everything, so I'm on all of the blogs and TikToks and Reels and all the things. But layers are very important right now. I think that, rattan and big different kinds of light fixtures are important. Wallpaper. I know not everybody loves wallpaper, but I do. I love it.
And some of it's awesome. When you see some of it, it's like, that is so cute. And I think it's better wallpaper than it used to be, right? Because a lot of it's peel and stick. You can pull it. You can change things out. You're not stuck with that wallpaper from the when was that? 50s that it was so big, or 70s? I don't remember. So it's not the same, but yeah, there's some awesome wallpaper out there. Yeah, for sure. And I think textile, when you walk in and you see, I love those rattan lights and the things that you see with the different fabrics and textures and stuff. I do. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In fact, I think they were looking at updating some of our stuff in here too with new colors, which is great.
I know.
So love that.
I know. And I mentioned agreeable gray, like that was everybody's like thing to go to, or color to go to. And now I see evergreen fog, which is a green. And I'm a green lover, so when I see evergreen fog, everything, I'm like, oh gosh.
That's going to be in a year. We'll be like, every house you walk into is evergreen fog, right?
I know.
I love it. It says here a lot of vintage or antique pieces are kind of coming back.
Yeah.
Which, interesting fun fact for us, we lived in England for a while, and one of my favorite things to do was go antique shopping.
Okay.
So I had all kinds of antique, and I've gotten rid of most of it. I'm like, dang it. Should have kept that in storage, because now it's all time to come back. But there's some pretty fun things you can find to put into your houses for decoration and things like that. Yeah. Where do you find things for you guys? Because you guys decorate, you guys have staged some houses, you have some furnished houses that you rent, or not furnished. What do you guys do?
Yeah, we have one furnished. It used to be an Airbnb, and now it's just a long-term furnished rental. I have to admit, I am a sucker for the Wayfair and the Amazon.
Yeah, I love
because
Wayfair and
I
Amazon
like the
too.
prices. So I look for, the Pottery Barn or the name brand stuff that I love.
Yeah.
But then I look for kind of that knockoff version.
Yes.
Because it never fails. I'll live with something for a year and then I want to completely redo it. And so I understand the statement pieces that are, quality and, worthwhile to keep for years and years and years. But I love my Amazon and my Wayfair.
And it's so convenient. So my daughter is remodeling a house in North Carolina right now, and we're helping with that. And I'm just like, oh, I'm having this shipped from Amazon to your house, right?
And you can get it in like a day or two. I mean, the convenience factor is important.
Awesome. It's awesome. It makes it so much easier than trying to find stores. And not that I have, walking into an actual store and checking out lighting is so much fun and things like that. But man, it's so convenient now, and it's fun. And I kind of agree with you. I used to be a collector of things, like I said, antiques and everything. And now I'm more like, it's good. I love it. And in a year or two, when I don't love it anymore, we'll change it out. So I'm okay with that.
I like change.
I do too. I love that. On here it said we had a lot of, or we're looking for a lot of zero waste and durable materials. And I think, I don't know how you were growing up with your family, but I think we came from a generation with our parents that really saved a lot. They had a lot of things. And I'm definitely more of the idea of less is more, and buying a few really good things that I love, and then just kind of working around with everything else.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that I just don't need the stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
and professional working with probate cases, when I go in to help clients who have lost a loved one, just seeing what it takes for them to get these houses cleaned out, the more I see that, the more I get rid of my own stuff. Like, my kids do not need to deal with this. Nobody cares about that box that's been sitting in your storage for 27 years that hasn't been opened, right? And so I do think there's still some getting away from the minimalist as far as decorations with the grays and the whites, but I still think there's a lot to be said with keeping things minimal in the house. I love that. That's just, I know that's a personal preference.
I think it's just
but I love
intentional.
that. Yeah. Oh, I love that word.
Use the things that are going to make a difference in your home that make you happy.
Yeah.
But don't go over the top. Less is more.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on what we're seeing come in or go out?
I don't really think so. I think we kind of hit all the points.
Yeah.
You know, I think that even if you go into some of our model homes that have been staged professionally, I see even them kind of going more towards some of those warmer colors too. So it's just been fun.
So let's throw that into properties. One of the things we kind of threw back and forth talking about today was, why would some homes sit longer than others? Because we do have such a low inventory right now. We're seeing excitement, but what do you think, or where would you go with that? Like, why would some homes sit longer than others on market, and why would some sell faster?
You know, I think that it starts from the very beginning when you're planning on selling your home. Those that are sitting, granted, I would have to walk in it to really give a factual opinion on it, but I think it just comes down to, did you price it right from the beginning, or did you price high thinking, oh, we're still in a market where we can negotiate? Did you get your house ready for market? You know, I have some clients that will say to me, well, Amber, I understand we could use some fresh paint and, you know, maybe we need to spruce up, you know, the kitchen or something, but I don't want to do that. I just want to sell. And I think that if you do take that extra month to really do those, you know, painting and those projects to make your room, your house just shine, it pays off in the long run because buyers are more selective. I don't think a lot of buyers, especially our younger buyers, want to go into a home and they already have a project list a mile long. They want to go into a home, see themselves living there, being able to immediately enjoy the space versus project after project. So if your home meets the, you know, it's ready now, it's priced right, you can move in and enjoy now, it's going to move quicker than that home that somebody says, well, we can negotiate all of those things. Well, people don't want to negotiate all of those things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, I guess that for me, because like I said, we just got a house ready to put on the market, and this is a home we've lived in for almost 20 years, right? And we had a lot of kids in it, and man, one of the things I found was the more we started working, the more we found that needed to be done. And we finally hit that point where like we just have to put it on the market and then just continue to keep updating and stuff like that. But I do think, I don't know, I feel when we have negotiations right now, I still think we have buyers out there asking for a lot. Like I talked to an agent just this morning at our MLS meeting that, you know, they conceded $20,000 in closing costs on a home. And I'm like, man, but I also have a buyer that just did 12, or a seller that just did 12. And so we're still seeing some concessions going to buyers through some negotiations. But when we're talking in these lower price points, I don't necessarily know if buyers are going to have that kind of capacity at this point, because we do have a lot less in these price points when we're talking 300, 350. So I think as a seller, you want to make the house shine, you want to make it look good, but as a buyer, you have to understand there's not as many out there.
That's true.
So you probably can't go in and ask for the world. You're going to have to do some projects. There's going to have to be some things that have to be done, unless you're willing to spend a little bit more on the house, right, and go up. But yeah, I do think getting the house ready to sell is a big deal. And honestly, just getting it cleaned up is the first place to start.
Absolutely.
Right? And our house is pretty big, and I'm finding that I go from room to room like, oh my gosh, I have to clean that now. That hasn't been cleaned in, how embarrassing, 15 years. But I got to clean those baseboards, or I've got to do this. So getting in there and getting it cleaned, and I really have become really comfortable with hiring things like that out.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a cleaner in there to help clean. Some of these people that clean are so good at what they do, and they have the tools and the equipment, and they can get it done. It's worth it to me to get somebody in to help get houses cleaned, get carpets cleaned, get windows cleaned, get things like that done. So I agree. I think getting the house ready to go, and paint can go a long way.
Yeah. I know nobody loves to paint. I'm one of those weird people that I kind of like to paint.
You like to paint? I hate to paint.
I like the transformation. So I like to be able to do a project and immediately see a transformation. But no, it's true. And I think a lot of it comes down to managing expectations.
I agree.
And that's on both sides, buyer and seller. Sometimes sellers think their home is worth more, or that potentially, you know, just because the neighbor sold for X, I should sell for X. And you really have to dive into what are the differences and why maybe one would sell for more than the other. But those expectations have to be managed on both sides. And if you do that from the very beginning and at the front, then you have a lot less heartache when it comes time for...
Everything just goes a lot smoother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the nice things when you have an agent that's working with, they have that information. You know, I think it's one of the most powerful tools we have is to be able to say to a seller, okay, here's what your home, you know your home, let's look at these comps and look at what they really have and what they really did. They did go make the effort of putting in, you know, doing some paint and getting it cleaned and doing this and that. And this is what it sold for. So are we willing to put in that effort on your house to get to that same place? And that's a tool, you know, we have that information. And so always would advise to get an agent to help you with that if you're looking at it. And then as a buyer to really listen to what your agent is saying as far as keeping those expectations realistic.
Right.
And as you go into it. So
yeah, if you have a big concession on closing costs, you might not get a big concessions on repairs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it all comes from education.
Yeah.
And talking with your agent and coming to realization on what's customary or what's you know really gonna be the outcome here.
Oh, good. Well, we appreciate you being with us today again at REMAX Live. If you have questions about the market or want any information, please reach out to one of us here in our office. We would love to help, but it's going to be a good year, I think.
Yeah. And actually, before we say goodbye, I wanted to let you know that here in the last quarter of 2025, I've been working on a 307 Heroes real estate program that I'm going to be rolling out here in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to hear more about Heroes, how you can save, give me a call, 307-640-4355.
Awesome. Thank you.